have our next keynote address. The speaker is Avnish Bajaj, the founder and MD of Matrix Partners. He'll be speaking about his experience in building the e-commerce enterprise and business in India, a bit about Matrix Partners before Mr. Bajaj comes up. It's an investment firm with over 3,000 rupees under management. Matrix India invests across multiple stages of businesses across various sectors, like the financial services, healthcare, education, internet, mobile, and specialized infrastructure services. Previously, Avnish was the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of India's largest online marketplace, Bazi.com, which was later bought out by eBay. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Avnish Bajaj.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction. Just a correction, we have a little bit more than 3,000 rupees. It's 3,000 crores. I just wanted to make sure that even the seed entrepreneurs who approach us don't get turned off. Thank you, Ashish, for this kind invitation. I think all of you should really thank him for keeping the keynote addresses to 15 minutes. For a graduate of Harvard Business School who's been trained by McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, as an entrepreneur, pitched to VCs. As a VC now, I pitch to entrepreneurs and investors. I have the unique talent to fill up as much time I'm given by saying the most obvious things in the most confusing fashion to sound profound and kind of go in the iPod shuffle and repeat mode. So 15 minutes makes me think of what I want to say. By the way, thank you, Gerald. That was a very inspiring as well as entertaining story of perseverance, which, by the way, for me is having started Bazi when I did, which was 99-2000, probably the biggest takeaway I have. And given the theme of this conference of e-tailing, I think you all are aware that in the last year, the story has changed significantly, and I'm going to address that in a minute. I think the key theme that I have seen in my life play out with all the successful people is perseverance. We all know about Steve Jobs, kind of like Gerald was fired from his own company, came back. I was at Apple in those days, came back and started it back up from nothing, and today the most valuable company in the world. So ultimately, that's what pays. If you have conviction in yourself, you bet on yourself, and you persevere. So that was something I was going to talk about, but given that Gerald already spoke about it, just thought I would reiterate it. Speaking about building e-commerce in India, I think just to give an overall context, and maybe it was covered yesterday, I wasn't here, but one cannot speak of e-commerce in India without the overall context of what's been happening over the last kind of 12 years. I came back to India in 1999 to co-found Bazi, and that was kind of the first wave. So in my mind, there have been three waves in India. There was 99-2000, there was 06-07, and there is 2010-2011. And if you look at these waves across maybe 4 dimensions, those dimensions being the size of the market opportunity, the quality of the companies and the teams that were addressing the market opportunity, the amount of innovation that was being done by those companies, and the kind of funding environment and entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll find that these waves have been very different. So in the time I started, classic banker mistake, there was no market. I came back to India without doing any due diligence and realized it's not a good idea to start an internet company in a country where there are no internet users. There was absolutely no market. The quality of the teams and the entrepreneurs was average to poor. Most internet entrepreneurs in the dot-com bubble era were in their late 30s, early 40s, but more importantly came from existing business houses that were trying to take advantage of the valuation bubble. there was no real long-term perseverance and goal in their mind. The level of innovation was low. Admittedly, I did not innovate. I was a classic copycat model. I think the only company I can think of from that era that had some level of innovation was maybe a Shadi or a Bharat Matrimony, because the concept of marriages online didn't exist. Dating existed, but marriages really didn't. So that was probably the closest you came to a made in India for India kind of model. And the funding levels and the valuations were absolutely crazy. The second wave was actually 06, 07. You had the beginnings of an internet market. There were more users, but frankly, it was actually the wave of mobile telephony. And people thought that would translate into internet, but it did not. The quality of the teams and the entrepreneurs I would rate as medium and improving. So I remember meeting a lot of people in their early 30s, great professional backgrounds, some of them IIT, IIM types, who were trying out, and the level of innovation went up a little bit. People were trying out social networks because Friendster and Facebook and Orkut were happening at that time. And interestingly at that time, that was the era in which online travel took off. And some of the companies of my vintage, 99, 2000, like Make My Trip, got recapitalized, funded again for a second innings. Again, going to a story of perseverance. And interestingly, that was the one time I have seen in the country where the funding levels as well as the valuations were relatively sane. They didn't go crazy, companies were capitalized about right, entrepreneurs' expectations were reasonable. And then is the last wave that happened in 2010 and 11. The market is there now. The market has changed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but the market is improving, it's deeper. The quality of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship is very, very encouraging. I have most recently in the last year probably met a lot of entrepreneurs. For the first time in India, I'm seeing stories of college dropouts. Not that I encourage it, but this is kind of the building block in the Silicon Valley. So people are chasing their dreams. They are starting while they are in their engineering colleges or management institutes, sometimes dropping out in their third year. I have seen most recently a company where the CEO is 22 years old. He's got a website, he's got revenues, he's got a team of maybe 50 people. And in general, probably late 20s, highly qualified, highly energetic entrepreneurs are emerging, which I think is extremely positive indicator for the country. Level of innovation is going up. Even if people are copying global models, they are realizing that it's not going to work without a lot of work on the Indian side of it, the indigenization of it. So you have seen companies like Autovale, Gharpe, Redbus, or, a lot of these cab companies. These are fairly customized for India, and I think that's very interesting. Now, for me, e-commerce is broader than e-tailing, so I'm covering that in that light, and we'll come to e-tailing in particular and the innovations that are needed there. That said, unfortunately, the level of funding and valuation is insane. It was insane in 2010 and 11. And sometimes I wonder if, my community of venture capitalists, we actually create and destroy these waves, because I actually believe the 2010-11 was driven largely by the investors going crazy. But I think all that said, on a positive note, this time it is for real. For the first time, you're finding all the key drivers, the market, the quality of teams, the entrepreneurs, and the funding ecosystem all coming together at the same time. So I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very, very interesting for this market. Coming to the topic at hand of e-tailing, and I'll tie in my experience both as an investor as well as an e-commerce entrepreneur into it. I think the challenges of e-tailing in the country are well documented. I have seen in the agenda of this conference that there are plenty of sessions on addressing all those challenges. For me, I'm going to address you more as entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs and say, if you want to be successful in e-tail, what are the two key things in my mind that I find people are missing? One is that you cannot do e-tailing without understanding retailing. Um, E-tailing is a more efficient and sometimes inefficient, and I'm going to talk about that way of doing retail. To understand retail, you have to understand that retail is a business of balance sheet. It is a working capital business. It's a business, if you're in the offline world, banks like Gerald was referring to repeatedly, are often your financiers. In e-tailing, banks will not touch you. So equity finances working capital. That is a very expensive way of building a business. And I don't think I have found enough people understanding that. And I'll give you one specific example without meaning to pick on a particular company. I was approached by an entrepreneur to raise 100 crores, $20 million. So I said, great, very talented entrepreneur, by the way, with a background that wasn't from e-tailing before. And I think that was the issue. So I asked, this is great. How far will this 100 crores take you? He said, it's going to take me till March 14. And this discussion was probably in mid-2011. So I said, okay. So March 14 is going to be how much EBITDA losses or cash losses he would have. So I asked him, what would be your sales in March 14? So he said 80 to 100 crores. I said, okay. What is the working capital inventory that you need? What is your working capital nature of your business? 90 days. That's 240 to 300 crores in inventory that you need to get 100 crores a month of sales. How can you raise 100 crores, reach 100 crores a month of sales, and fund your operating losses and have that inventory? So the basics were missing. So what you're seeing today, why has the so-called bubble burst? Because neither the entrepreneurs nor the investors understood that e-tailing is still retailing. And you need to make sure that you understand the basics of that. And most investors got caught in this trap of putting in the money and then asking the e-tailers to discount, to do couponing, to grow very fast, and then realize all their equity was getting sucked into working capital. So it's a critical part of understanding how you do retail and e-tail. The second side, so this is the balance sheet side of it. The second side is the income statement, profit and loss side of it. You have to understand the microeconomics of your business. So the equation that doesn't work, unfortunately, in India, in most businesses we talk about LTV to CAC, lifetime value to customer acquisition cost. A healthy ratio for most businesses globally is 3, greater than 3:1. In India, that ratio is 1 divided by 6, 1 divided by 4 sometimes. Why? Typically, if you're doing SEM for a e-tailing category, if it's a specialized category, you're going to spend 600 to 800 rupees to acquire a customer. Your average order value is going to be 1200 to 1400 rupees. Your contribution margin after paying for fulfillment, payment gateway, returns, which in this business can be up to 15%, is going to be 10 to 20%. So you're going to make between 100 rupees to 200 rupees from one customer that you've acquired for between 600 to 1000 rupees. Unless that customer repeats 4 to 5 times with you, you won't even break even. And I think it was to Gerald's point of you can't make money by selling something at 75 rupees that you're buying at 85 rupees. I don't think this part of it has been understood enough. How do you solve this conundrum? My view, India is the most price elastic and price sensitive market in the world. So if you try to increase prices, the market disappears. So the game here to get the LTV to CAC ratio right is not to drive up LTV, but rather to drive down CAC. So how do you drive down CAC? I think it's about building a great business. You need to have the best product that you don't need to market. And if I'll connect that now to my lessons from Bazi, I think best products always win. I think the best products are always bought, not sold. If you look at 99-2000 era, which were the most valuable companies in the internet, it was eBay, it was Yahoo, Amazon was about $8 billion of market cap. If you look at the most valuable companies on the internet today, Google about 200 billion, Facebook about 50, let's say LinkedIn about 10, Amazon about 100 billion. eBay is 60, Yahoo is 0, all close to it. Why? All the companies that have won, have you seen them advertising on billboards? Have you seen them advertising on television? Have you seen them advertising anywhere? No. They have grown on the back of great product, great user experience. Apple Computer is the best example of that. They advertise because they make 35% net margins. But they grew on the back. When Steve Jobs came back, he just brought the whole focus of the organization back on product. In my view, the companies that succeed, the CEO is maniacally obsessed with the quality of the product. The minute, with all due respect to John Scully, he was a Pepsi marketeer, it was under his reign that Apple kind of went sideways. All the companies that have succeeded, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Apple, the CEO at the top obsesses about his product. And I think that's the key formula to success. When I came back and me and Suvir started Bazi for the first 2 years, I mean, we were completely not trained to run any business, frankly. As a banker, that's what they do to you. We didn't know what we were doing. I think Bazi succeeded once we managed to get the product right and we became maniacally focused about the product. So for me, outside of perseverance, that's the second key takeaway, and connecting it back to e-tailing, the LTV to CAC equation will work when your CAC is 0. Then your lifetime value, then the ratio works. So our investments in e-commerce, our theme of e-commerce and e-tailing is driven by that. So we have made actually only one investment. It's in a company called LimeRoad. There's a investment Matrix has in the US called Polyvore, which is a profitable company, believe it or not, in e-commerce. And these companies grow on the back of a social, it's kind of social commerce where the community kind of builds the companies on their own. And for us, LimeRoad is the same bet. Community is coming and doing it. Community is talking about it. It's a social way of doing it. And the idea is, can you do e-tailing like Facebook does, where people invite people or people connect with people and you don't have to go and get people and market to them by couponing, because that equation will never work. Second experience from Bazi that I would like to share is teams. I think I really want to emphasize, by the way, there are probably 10 people in this room who are ex-Bazi, who are now running their own businesses. I think in a situation where there was no market, one of the reasons, I think one of the key reasons we succeeded was we had the best team in the market and we stuck together. It was like a family. It continues to be. We are 10 years into it, or 12 years into it, and we have annual Bazi reunions where 60% of the company shows up from all over the country. So I think, not to be too cliched about it, but it is very easy. People talk about, do you strike when the iron is hot? I think great teams strike so hard that the iron becomes hot. So they go at it with so much perseverance and conviction that they make an impossible opportunity possible. And I think that is the other key pillar of building great companies. So with that, I'm down to my last 2.5 minutes. So just wrapping up, where do I see the current situation? Actually, let me make one more point going back to perseverance. Warren Buffett made this comment in the context of, it is a light-hearted comment, and he says, you can't have a baby, and the theme is certain things take time. And his comment is, you can't have a baby in 1 month by making 9 women pregnant. It will still take you 9 months to have a baby. Certain things just take time. You have to be patient, you have to persevere, and building a business takes time. And it will never be a one-way upward journey. In fact, Gerald mentioned that he's invited to speak, to talk to people who have gone through difficult times. I think every successful company has gone through a difficult time. It's very, very rare that a company doesn't go through it. So having that conviction during those periods is very important. Where do we stand today? I think in e-tailing in particular, and e-commerce in general, but more specifically e-tailing, there is serious consolidation that is happening. I'm sure you've heard of companies that have gone out of business. I think more are on the way of going out of business. You're going to see a lot of mergers happening between distressed assets this year. I think it's going to play out over the next 6 to 9 months because all the companies that raised money in 2011 are almost out of money, and if they don't get new money, they will have to merge. So over the next 6 to 9 months, I think all of this will kind of play out. The good news that comes out of this is in the second half of the year or towards the end of the year, all the VCs who have invested, who are today not ready to invest because there's a lot of pain, would have gone through that cycle. And ultimately, VCs are in the business of investing. So the funding cycle is going to come back, and companies have to just ride it out for the next maybe 6 months to a year. For entrepreneurs who are starting out, I don't think there is ever a better time than today. Like I said, everything is kind of coming together, but very importantly, and some of you may not know this statistic, for the first time in India in the last, I think 12 to 18 months, about 15 seed funds have been raised, each between $10 to $50 million of size. So getting early startup money has never been easier than today. You guys are aware, I mean, initiatives like this are very helpful. You are aware of a lot of incubators and accelerators that are coming up. So I think if ever there was a time to be an entrepreneur, it is today. Mobile is disruptive. Mobile internet is disruptive. I don't think enough people are thinking about that, and I'll give you a very small example. I think in the future you'll have a lot of internet users who will not have an email address. And if there is any internet site that you need to do anything on, you need to put in an email address. Well, people are going to be on mobile internet. They'll be using Facebook, WhatsApp, some other chat product to communicate. They will never use email. So if you have an internet site where you require an email address to register, you will never be successful on mobile internet. And people are not getting that. So you have to think mobile first. You have to think that in this market, over the next 4 or 5 years, there may be 150 to 200 million users on the internet who will never have access to desktop internet. They never will access it on the desktop. It will always be the mobile device or the tablet. I think the best is yet to come. I mentioned earlier that the ecosystem has evolved, and it's become probably the best time I have seen to build a business here, as long as you build it the right way. With that, at Matrix, we are obviously very interested and very bullish on the market. So if you have great ideas, please reach out to our team. We are seed investors selectively, but largely first round Series A investors. With that, I thank everybody again for your gracious invite, and good luck.